Hey law seekers, racial segregation wasn't just a dark chapter in South Africa's history. It was written in many languages, across continents. When people talk about apartheid, South Africa often comes to mind first. But the idea of dividing people by race was never limited to just one country. Let's start in the late 1800s with the USA. During this era, Jim Crow laws enforced strict separation between black and white people. Public spaces like schools, restaurants, and parks were divided, and there were signs everywhere reading "Whites Only" and "Colored." These laws dictated where people could eat, which schools they attended, and even which water fountains they could use. Segregation was especially visible on buses and trains, where black Americans were forced to sit in separate sections, often at the back, and sometimes had to give up their seats to white passengers. One court case in particular, Plessy versus Ferguson, declared segregation perfectly legal in 1896. This was on the basis that it was justifiable if people were treated as separate but equal. However, in reality, separation was enforced, but equality was not. Meanwhile, in Nazi Germany, the Nuremberg laws of the 1930s stripped Jewish people of citizenship and banned them from marrying non-Jews. These laws laid the groundwork for some of the worst atrocities in history. Different context, same ugly playbook, used the law to divide, exclude, and control. Australia had its own version, with policies designed to keep Aboriginal Australians and Torres Strait Islanders on the margins. Children were even taken from their families, in what's now called the stolen generations. Brazil, on the other hand, tried to erase blackness through racial whitening, importing European immigrants to improve the population's colour, so-called improve, instead of writing explicit segregation into law. The result? Still a deeply divided society. The end of segregation laws didn't erase their effects overnight. For years, their legacy continued to shape lives, leaving deep marks on families and entire communities. Generations carried the weight of injustice, working together to heal wounds and rebuild what was lost. Systemic racism, those invisible barriers, remained woven into the fabric of daily life, affecting opportunities and access for many. These barriers show up in schools, in jobs, in housing, and in healthcare. But history is not only a record of oppression, it's also a story of resilience and progress. Across the world, people have fought for change and made real strides toward equality. In the United States, the Brown v. Board of Education decision shattered the myth of separate but equal in 1954, ruling that segregation in schools was unconstitutional. In South Africa, Nelson Mandela's release from prison and the end of apartheid in the 1990s brought hope and inspired the world. These moments showed that justice is possible when people unite for change. Around the globe, nations came together at the United Nations to confront racism head-on. The signing of the International Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Racial Discrimination, ICERD, signaled to the world that racism has no place in law or society. This global agreement marked a turning point, as countries pledged to stand together against racial discrimination and build a more just future. Progress is real and every step forward matters. But lasting change takes more than new laws. It calls for action, compassion, and courage from each of us. When we act with empathy and stand up for one another, we move closer to a world where everyone is valued equally. When we stand together, united in respect and understanding, we build a stronger future. Our shared history of surviving legalized racial segregation teaches us the power of unity and resilience. Let us learn from the past and stand together to create a brighter, more united world for everyone. Did you find this content useful or interesting? If so, be sure to like, share, and subscribe for more stories about law and history. Stay curious, law seekers.